Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank, where I climb the online Series 9 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we're trying out another top team from the last time we had Series 7 on the rank ladder back in January. I think this team finished 30th for the January rank season. It was built by a Japanese player, and there are a lot of cool components to this team, especially for best of 1 play. So the main reason I wanted to feature it is because of this really unique Latias. Latias is a Pokemon that we didn't really use too much of back in Series 7. Hasn't been super popular in VGC in general. I actually liked using a dual screens Latias back in like 2013, but in general this Pokemon has not been super popular in VGC. Latios, its counterpart, has been significantly more popular, especially in like 2013, where you could throw a Dragon Gem onto it and use Draco Meteor. So Latias, not as common just because it didn't do as much damage when compared to Latias. But the cool thing about this Latias, which you really utilize, is that it's a little bit bulkier, and that allows you to run a really fun supportive set. So it has Bulldoze, and that can activate Weakness Policy on Metagross. We've all seen how Weakness Policy Metagross strategies play out before. This isn't anything new, but Latias is a pretty interesting partner. It's not one that you see too often with Metagross. It's a full supportive set here. You've got Tailwind, you've got Ally Switch, and then Mystical Fire. Mystical Fire, of course, allows you to do a little bit of damage, especially against those steel types like Kartana, for example, but also notably can drop your opponent's special attack. As you see with this team, you have multiple ways to drop your opponent's stats. You have Mystical Fire with the Latias, the Charm on the Whimsicott, Thunder Wave on the Regieleki to lower their speed, and then Fake Tears with Whimsicott as well. So the Bulldoze combo with Latias and Metagross can be really strong, especially if they don't have anything that just counters this directly. Of course, there are a lot of Galarian, Moltres, and Spectriers in the format, so you're probably not going to lead this that often, but can put in a lot of work if your opponent doesn't have something that can just one-shot Metagross or Latias right from turn 1. To round out the team, you've got Thunder Wave on Regieleki, Choice Band Urshifu, Whimsicott with Charm and Fake Tears, and then Life Orb offensive Tapu Fini with Muddy Water, Moonblast, Ice Beam, and Protect. So I feel like at this point we've featured most of these like Pokemon on this channel, and even their sets at some point, but the thing about this team is that everything has a little bit of a surprise to it, right? You've got the Band Urshifu, you've got the supportive Latias set, you've got Thunder Wave on Regieleki, you've got Max Speed, Max Special Attack Tapu Fini, if I remember correctly, this Charm and Fake Tears Whimsicott. Charm is a move that was really common, or not really common, but like decently common on Whimsicott in the start of VGC 2020, and I feel like players have kind of just forgotten about it as an option. A lot of people, like to run Protect on Whimsicott, especially because all the Fake Out users. That's definitely a viable option, but I really like Charm just because if you can Charm something like Dynamax's turn 1 and it's a physical attacker, it just gives you such a big advantage right away. I also really like Thunder Wave on Regieleki because at this point most people expect like Electro Web, for example, and with Thunder Wave you can actually get around stuff like Clear Body, and that's a really big deal, especially because Dragapult, of course, is really common in this format. So what that allows you to do is just lead something like Regieleki Urshifu, Thunder Wave into Wicked Blow immediately and just do tons of damage into Dragapult and perhaps just pick up a one-hit KO. So a lot of cool elements to this team. I'm excited to try out Latias. It's not a Pokemon, like I mentioned, that we featured really before too much, especially not in Series 7 if I remember correctly. So thanks so much as always for watching Road to Rank. If you enjoyed, please share support by leaving a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Question of the day with us using Latias, I want to know what Pokemon you think you expect to see rise in usage in Series 9 that maybe wasn't as common in Series 7. Regirock is probably my answer. That had already been trending upwards towards the end of Series 7. I think it's a Pokemon that has a lot of potential, so that's one I expect to perhaps make a bigger splash on the metagame in the earlier months of Series 9. So that would be my answer. And once again, this team is from this really great resource on Victory Road. They've compiled like over 80 teams with rental and pastes, and it's just such a phenomenal resource for getting into VGC, especially if you're looking for rental teams for Series 9. A lot of teams will be featuring in Road to Rank in the upcoming weeks will be from that. So check that out. That's also linked down in the description below. But I've been rambling on long enough, so let's get started with today's episode. Alright, getting into our first match of the day, and pretty cool stuff here. Celesteela, Regieleki, Fini, Lando, Amoonguss, and Spectrier. So, Spectrier is not exactly a good site for us here, right, when we're using Latias plus Metagross. So, it's probably not the smartest to lead this, but I still think Metagross can put in a lot of work in the end game. Aleki is really interesting. Fini maxing is actually not terrible. What am I most nervous about? Because I feel like Urshifu is so essential to dealing with Spectrier, but I feel like I shouldn't just lead it. Cool thing about this Fini, though, is because it's max speed, you actually outspeed max speed Regieleki under Tailwind, which is really nice. But this is what I was saying, right? You're not always going to lead Latias Metagross. If your opponent has a Spectrier or a Galarian Moltres in Team Preview, you should already, like, think twice about leading it. The other troublesome thing here is that their Celesteela is actually a really big issue, which leads me to want to prioritize Regieleki. Maybe we don't need to bring Whimsicott. Maybe we can go Regieleki Urshifu with Latias and Metagross in the back. Whimsicott's typically pretty safe, right? But Charm doesn't really give us any value here. Fake Tears doesn't give us that much value. So the only reason to bring it would be to Tailwind, but because we have Latias, we can actually Tailwind with Latias. And Regieleki gives us really good speed control. So yeah, let's go with this. I think this is very much a matchup in which you can make an argument for all of the Pokemon, and that's always a good thing, right? One thing I always stress when talking about team preview is kind of pointing out, hey, these, like, we have the opportunity to bring said Pokemon, and I'm just not going to because in best of one it feels risky, or sometimes you're just like, okay, this Pokemon just doesn't make any sense in the matchup. Still important to identify when it is, you know, potentially an opportunity to bring something out, though. This is what I'm saying, right? If I had Fini here, Fini actually would be really, really great. This is a nice lead by my opponent. This is a very nice lead by them. Very easy for them to just protect Celesteela, and the play they should make is protect Celesteela and Quake into, Airstream into Urshifu. But Metagross doesn't have that much offense here. Oh, I guess the nice thing is you actually can't protect in front of Wicked Blow anyway, right? Yeah, that's actually really valuable. Huh. I mean, Celesteela could even max here. That'd be really wild. I'm going to Wicked Blow here. It's just a question of who. I think I'm still going to target the Landorus here, just because Regieleki deals with Celesteela really, really well in this endgame. But this is an interesting position where my opponent maybe is like, oh, I don't need to protect Celesteela, I'm going up against an Urshifu. But if we can get Landorus to max, that's okay. I get Latias in, and then I bring Regieleki out next to it. If they don't Airstream this turn, they Quake, we're actually in phenomenal shape. But I think Quake, sorry, the other way around. If they Quaked and rather than Airstream, we're in really good shape. But I think it's likely, if I was in my opponent's shoes, I'd always just Airstream into the Urshifu slot. Celesteela does go for the Protect, though. Okay, that's good. I don't know, maybe I could have targeted Celesteela with Wicked Blow there, but that's a very nice amount of damage on the Landorus to start off the game. Yep, and they do go for Airstream. That's fine, though. You know what's really interesting is, like, I could just accelerate this game really quickly. Because we should still outspeed Landorus, right? So the thing is, I get a free switch it into Regieleki, to which I can then just Tailwind and go for a Thunderbolt. Kind of like that. Because late game Metagross is amazing into my opponent's team. And I'm not as worried about Spectrier now, right? Because I've forced their Dynamax out early on. So, yeah, I like Tailwind Thunderbolt here. We should outspeed Landorus at, yep, okay, nice. We get the Magnet Thunderbolt off. Let's see if this one-shot Celesteela. Beautiful. Okay, that's a really good turn for us. And the thing is, we baited out the Protect on turn 1, right? So even though my opponent made their safest play, I actually think we're in pretty good shape now as well. Yes, they have a Landorus, and yes, it's at +1 speed, but now I have Tailwind up, and because we're max speed on the Metagross, I think what we can do the next turn is just Bulldoze and max Hailstorm. Actually, we don't even need a Hailstorm. Steel Spectre KO. The main thing to watch out for is now we have to protect the Metagross, right? At this point, we've given up a lot of early game offense. Latias isn't doing any damage outside of Mystical Fire, and that's not that great here, but this is actually super good for us. Like, we couldn't force Latias Metagross in the early game because of the Celesteela and the Spectrier, but by getting my opponent to max their Landorus and conserving our Dynamax, you know, yesterday's episode was about conserving max, and one really key lesson in Sword and Shield in general is if you can conserve your max, it can often give you huge advantages. So, they bring out Tapu Fini now, but now Latias has put itself in a really good position to succeed. Metagross should outspeed the Landorus, especially because we're max speed here. I'm just trying to think what our best line of action is here, but, I mean, it's always to Bulldoze. Actually, we do have Ally Switch, so we could get cheeky and Ally Switch, but I don't think there's actually any reason to do that right now. I don't really need a defense boost. I think it's fine to just Bulldoze, Max, and Hailstorm. Yeah, into Landorus. Like, we've put ourselves in a really good position to succeed. And I don't think Landorus should outspeed us under Tailwind. Actually, yeah, I mean, our Regieleki was faster than the Landorus. Well, can max speed Landorus actually outspeed max speed Leki at +1? I don't think it does, right? You fall just short. Yeah, because, I mean, Tornadus is what? It hits its 180 speed. So under, at +1, you'd be like 270, and max speed Leki is 277. And this is one reason to use Latias. It's pretty bulky, right? So, yep, we get the Bulldoze off, start that off. Nice. The reason I went for Hailstorm here is just for chip damage onto Fini. And it also just accelerates, like, if my opponent has Spectrier in the back, I don't know. I don't know if we actually want chip onto Latias, because now, like, Moonblast plus Hail, I fear is enough to KO. But, even if my opponent's last one is Spectrier, I mean, we could have max Quaken. No, I don't think we ever Quaken to Fini. We have to respect the threat, which is Landorus out on the field right now. Now, Fini's not that scary, especially because we have Mystical Fire. So Latias and Metagross looking very nice right now for us. Let's see. We have 2 turns of Dynamax to work with as well. They just go for Muddy Water, and that's really the best thing to see here, because I don't have to care about an accuracy drop on either Pokemon at this point. The Hail damage just, yeah, gives me a little bit more chip onto Fini. You do have to be pretty careful when you're playing with this Metagross, because it's a lot less bulky than you're probably used to if you're using Metagross, because so many players like to use, you know, like near max HP or just a ton of defensive investment with Metagross. But this one is just max attack, max speed, so you do take a little bit more damage from attacks in general. But Spectrier is my opponent's last one, and yep, this should be a wrap now. All we have to do is go for a Bulldoze. We still have Tailwind up. Perfect. And Max Quake. So this is why I think, you know, initially if you look at Team Preview, you're probably thinking, oh, Metagross, Latias, like, how does that make any sense, right? My opponent has the Spectrier, they have the Celesteela. But, you know, this is why it's important to, like, try to play flexible when you play VGC as well, right? Don't lock yourself into just playing with one specific, like, Dynamax. Because, you know, initially coming into this game, I still wanted to play towards Max Metagross, but it's actually, I guess based off what I brought in this game, it would still be Max Metagross. Max Regieleki could actually make some sense, though, if my opponent, for example, didn't bring Landorus, right? Like, let's say I saw Celesteela plus Spectrier lead, then we can actually just max Leki, or just go for Electro Web and, you know, Strikes, for example. Or not Searching Strikes, Wicked Blow. But now we have the Special Defense boost as well. They're just going to Moonblast. Yeah, I think if they had a shot to win, they needed to Moonblast crit Latias last turn. Because I think Latias would have survived without a crit. This was where my hesitation of setting up Hail came in, though. Like, my idea was, hey, I set up the Hail, so then, like, that also breaks Sash on Spectrier. But the thing is, it's probably more important to just guarantee Latias staying out on the field, so I think I could have optimized my play a little bit more by actually not going for Hailstorm, because I don't really need chip damage at this point. I'm fairly confident +2 Steel Spike KOs Landorus at that point. Now, Hailstorm, I guess, is a safer play in case it's like max HP, max defense Landorus, but obviously the odds of that are super slim, so yeah. Either way, we can just go for a Steel Spike and a Mystical Fire, and yeah, perfect game for Latias plus Metagross. I guess it'd be more perfect if we could lead Latias Metagross, that'd be a little bit nicer, but we can take it here. And this is why I think Latias is a really cool partner, right? It's a bulky support user that can activate that weakness policy, not in one way, but 2 different ways, right? I was talking about Bulldoze when we were talking about this team earlier, but Mystical Fire is really compelling as well, right? You can use that to not only drop your opponent's stats, but also have another way to activate policy on Metagross while not doing too much damage to yourself. And so, in this game, we ended up using Bulldoze, but Mystical Fire is actually really valuable when you're going up against things that might potentially have their own weakness policy, like opposing Metagross is, for example. So, yeah. Either way, that was definitely, you know, pretty solid first game here. I think, you know, ideally when I was thinking of, you know, featuring this team, I was like, oh, I hope we can just lead Latias Metagross, but it's important to know and point out when you can't just force things too much, right? And with this team, you really can't just force Latias and Metagross in every game, especially if your opponents have the Spectrier or the Moltres, for example. So, yeah. All right, next game here, and we have Thundurus, Landorus, Kartana, Urshifu, Incineroar, and Tapu Fini. So, great for Latias. I mean, if we set up Tailwind here, things are looking pretty good. Fini's actually really good as a max option here. Wow, we have so many different ways we can play this, but I don't know what the best route to take is. Ideally, it's get Tailwind up, but I can't lead Whimsicott very easily because they could so easily go Incin plus any of their main max options. Incin Kartana, Incin Landorus, Incin Thundurus, those are all solid. To be honest, we should expect that. The idea of sacrificing something to get a free switch it into Whimsicott is actually very compelling to me. I don't know. I feel like Fini should actually be our max option here. But if I'm my opponent, I'm leading what? Incin plus Thundurus feels really good on for them. To which I guess I could just lead Metagross. Maybe I just go Latias Metagross outright. Whim Fini in the back. Leki's tempting, but they have Landorus. Urshifu is definitely not bad for us here, but I'm not 100% confident in it. So this is interesting because I normally expect to lead one of the, like, Whimsicott, but Latias can take a max Airstream, and then Metagross would also apply a little bit of offensive pressure going into this. So let's see. By the way, just as a heads up, my computer has been crashing a little bit recently. I'm not really sure why. So every now and then, you might see me like just have a brief pause in a game, like just so I can finish the first recording and then start re-recording. Just because when it crashes, it doesn't save the initial recording, and so it's been a little bit frustrating to deal with. But I'm trying to figure that out. So yeah, that's exactly what I'm gonna do right now. Just basically click end and then restart, and we're back. So it's actually Thundurus plus Landorus, huh? The play I want to make the most here is honestly just Protect turn 1 and Tailwind. It's kind of obvious, but I guess I could just also max Landorus, but I feel like that's too risky if like Landorus actually just gets targeted aggressively on turn 1. The other lead I was thinking about in this game was Whimsicott Fini. And that would have been pretty nice here. The problem, though, is I don't think Fini one-shots Max Thundurus with a Max Hailstorm, especially if you're Assault Vest Thundurus. So then you have this problem where it's like, okay, Thundurus... Oh, interesting, they don't max either Pokemon. Okay, I don't mind that. Thunderwave Swords Dance here could be... Oh, gosh. Oh, or just Thunderwave Rock Slide. T-Wave in general is a really big problem for us here, though. Okay, they just T-Wave EQ. So the thing is, I could just easily switch Latias out into Fini to get Terrain up. As long as I get Tailwind up this first turn, it's not bad. Okay, fortunately we don't get fully paralyzed, so that's good. That's good, that's good, that's good. I mean, the question here is it actually worth it to max Hailstorm? Like, they probably expect Hailstorm, right? So they could switch out so easily into Incin or Fini right now in the back, which doesn't feel great. That being said, I think they have no offensive pressure right now. It's a little bit greedy to go for a... Yeah, I think I will just switch out into Tapu Fini here and max Hailstorm. It's just a little bit risky to like greed an Ice Punch or a Max Steel Spike. And the reason for this is because, okay, let's say they switch out into Incineroar or Tapu Fini. Well, I still get a little bit of chip damage off, and more importantly, it looks like they're going to stay in, which is good for us. Oh, actually, wait, not necessarily, because I could have just stayed in there. Yeah, because the Tailwind negates the Thunder Wave, so he still should outspeed Landorus unless it was Scarflando. So I expect it to switch here, but if it stays in, that's really good for us. And it stays in. That's fantastic. Okay, good. This is why I just didn't think it was worth risking. It didn't make a lot of sense to risk here, I think. Because, let's say we go for a Steel Spike. Well, I guess Steel Spike would allow us to survive, maybe activate our weakness policy, but, ideally, Hailstorm just one-shots Landorus here. What would be really interesting is that they max Landorus and can actually survive a max Hailstorm. That would be really bad, actually. Nice. Okay, they go for Thunder Wave. Perfect. We get the terrain in. Beautiful. And we get the one-shot. Okay, great. Now my opponent's in a really awkward spot because their Tapu Fini does not do... Or sorry, their Thundurus does nothing to us right now. In the sense, they can't Thunder Wave Metagross. They're clearly a support-oriented Thundurus. I shouldn't say nothing because you can still go for, Airy Impulse onto Tapu Fini or Taunt onto it, but that was a really big turn for us. Now, that was the hesitation of Max Hailstorming, though. I could have just stayed in and gone for an Ice Punch, and that probably would have just knocked out Landorus, and it would have given me an extra turn of Dynamax, but... Let's say I do that, and then Landorus actually goes for the really crazy play of maxing and max quaking to Metagross. Yes, it's a really sim play, but if my opponent makes that play, we're actually in a lot of trouble. So it doesn't feel worth it to try to risk it there. Now, my opponent does have Kartana, and this is pretty scary, but this is where Charm on Whimsicott can actually be really, really good for us. In this position, I don't mind just going for the knockout onto Thundurus here with another Hailstorm. Now is a position where I actually think we can stay in with the Fini as well. Especially because we have Charm. Because if I go for Max Hailstorm and Muddy Water, That's a guaranteed KO onto... No, it's not a guaranteed KO, actually, because they could bring in Fini, but... I think I will just go for Muddy Water and Hailstorm here. Yep, they switch out. If this is instant coming in, we pick up a KO, like, that should just be game over. But it is Fini. That's actually the worst one to see, unfortunately, for us. That's okay, though. Mystical Fire is going to be valuable in dealing with Kartana. I could have gone Steel Spike Moonblast instead. No, but I honestly think it's reasonable to think their last one's going to be the Incineroar. And if it was Urshifu or Incin and we picked up the KO, the game's actually just over. Because then you bring in Thundurus. That Thundurus probably doesn't have Protect. Hailstorm then KOs Thundurus on the last turn of Max. So, yeah. We'll get Muddy Water off. What's interesting here is, does my opponent just go for Max Grass? Because you could see them switching out here. Or sorry, expecting me to switch out. Great Fini switch in, though. And they are going to Steel Spike here. Let's see if that actually KOs us. We don't have any bulk, so it might still. Ah, it does. Okay, that's not great. Yeah, I mean, my opponent can definitely pull off the comeback right now because I am lacking in damage output without activating that weakness policy. Although I guess I can just go Latias and Bulldoze right now, right? The problem in going in Latias is if we get fully paralyzed, but I think it's a risk we have to take right now. Fini protecting this next turn feels super duper obvious. But I think we can win the game with Metagross plus Kartana. Oh, sorry, Metagross plus Whimsicott. I'm just nervous about a para here. The alternative is to go Whimsicott, but the thing is Whimsicott then just faints, even if I charm. So I'd rather go into Latias because if we don't get fully paralyzed, we're in an amazing spot. And even if we get full parried, is it over? If we survive Steel Spike, it's not over. I also have Mystical Fire, so I could Mystical Fire Kartana, like double up onto Kartana here. I lean towards bulldozing here. Yeah, I think I'm going to bulldoze and Steel Spike here. They played well bringing their Kartana in a great spot, though. Oh, I messed that up. I forgot let the speed, let the Metagross outspeeds right now. Would that have changed how I played, though? I don't really think so. No, then I actually would have... And we get paired. Oh, gosh. However, we do have the defense boost, so now we will survive. If we didn't get parried, I think Metagross still wins this game, but the para now makes it really hard, I think. Because I can't activate the policy now. And then Moonblast should KO. Well, that's frustrating. Forgot about the fact that Latias would go first. Either way, we need to avoid a para that turn, and we didn't. I don't think bringing Whimsicott's correct, though, so I wouldn't change how I played that turn. Just frustrating for it to pan out the way it did. The problem is I still just don't have great damage into Kartana, right? Tailwind peters out, so the thing is I could go for another Tailwind, but now this Hail is actually really detrimental to us. That's another reason to have considered Ice Punching earlier, because I have Charm. But I feel like I need a Tailwind, right? Otherwise I just get outsped. I don't think I can win this now, unfortunately. We needed to get the Bulldoze off, because then if Metagross is at +2, we can very easily win this game. But now it's pretty tough. They're at +2 defense. The third Steel Spike will just KO Whimsicott. So that's why Thunder Wave can be a really good attack. And my opponent played very well towards maxing their Kartana. I'll think about counterplaying a bit. This is still theoretically winnable. How many turns of Train are left? 2. Okay. Ironhead Fini here. And Tailwind. Our win con is a Ice Punch Freeze on Kartana. Yeah, good protect on Fini. That's always a correct play, by the way, because you always just protect Steel Spike Whimsicott in this position. So, yeah. I had the opportunity to make maybe knock out Tapu Fini. I thought Incineroar would be my opponent's last one, but I guess Incineroar as the last one doesn't actually make that much sense. So I predicted the Fini switch in. What I could have done was Steel Spike and Moonblast the Thundurus. Fini comes in, instantly faints, you bring Thundurus back out, and then I can just max Hailstorm KO Thundurus. And then at that point, we can probably win even with the full paralysis. So didn't really nail the switch-in prediction, unfortunately, and that cost us really heavily. So Fini was like the worst option for us to see in the end. And I do want to quickly take a look at the teams, just like look at like process of elimination, because like it probably made a lot of sense for them to just have Fini in the back. So this is the downside. You know, we never activated Metagross's weakness policy. Without the policy, we're not one-shotting a lot of things past that Landorus. Yeah, I think like the main 2 opportunities to have played better this game was the Fini switch in and then the turn with Latias. Well, actually, I don't think I would have played the turn with Latias any differently because once again, I think if we don't get full parried there, it's actually very doable. Maybe it's not that doable. There's no way around getting full parried on Latias though without knowing their Thunder Wave on the Thundurus. And like turn 1, honestly, didn't even feel that bad about. I think the main thing here was that there's actually very little reason for them to bring Incin or the Urshifu. No, Urshifu makes some sense. I think you could definitely think of Urshifu is in the back. But the thing is, we covered for Urshifu. Okay, how do we win now? I don't really think we can. We'd have to... I don't even know if Iron Head KOs here with the defense boosts. Oh my goodness, it doesn't. Yeah, well played, well played. Yeah, like the main line to take... let's say we don't change anything about the Pokemon. Because I don't think I would have brought any different Pokemon. Like, I was really happy with the Pokemon we had here. So, assuming turn 1 even played out okay. The thing with Thundurus is I don't think you can just assume Thunder Wave on turn 1. Because if you play too passively, it can max in front of you. And just snowball too quickly. That's why using something like, you know, Support Thundurus can really catch your opponents off guard. I think the main thing here is just nailing the switch in. Especially if Landorus didn't switch out on the second turn, it's unlikely they had Incineroar in the back to begin with. So from that, using Process of Elimination, we can assume they don't have an Incineroar in the back. Then at that point, if we're saying, hey, it's going to be Thundurus, Fini... I mean, the thing is, they could have stayed in with Thundurus, and I'm not sure Max Steel Spike plus Moonblast actually KOs the Thundurus, but Thundurus had very little business staying in that position. And because Thundurus, like, just feints from Max Hailstorm, if we nailed the switch in there, then Metagross just picks up 3 knockouts in 3 turns, and we likely win the game from that. So, that was the main thing. Yes, you know, we got fully parried, and that was a little bit unfortunate, but I think there were opportunities to make better plays. Mainly just the reading the switch out there, because we had the Thundurus pin, more or less. This team for the next game is wild. It's so cool. Wow. Kind of reminds me of, like, very early... Actually, I mean, only because of Whimsicott, Durant, and Inteleon. But, like, Durant and Inteleon were, like, trending towards the end of 2020. But Thundurus-T, Mamo, Whimsicott, Inteleon, Tsareena, and Durant. That's awesome. Another Tailwind team, which is a little bit tough for us here, I have to say. Latias actually has a lot of value just because of Mystical Fire. Hold up. That's pretty interesting. Huh. It's very interesting, actually. I feel like Metagross is a pretty good max option here. They don't have great Dark Resists. We have Bulldoze with Latias as well. So I'm honestly thinking like Whimsicott and Latias. I know that seems a little... Well, that is a little bit weird, actually. But Latias actually counters Durant really hard. If I'm my opponent, though, I'm probably, what, Mamoswine? Playing towards Mamoswine? So what if we go Whimsicott, Urshifu, Latias, Metagross? That seems okay. Aleki's okay here, but with Thundurus... No, that's actually not even okay. They've got Thundurus-T and Mamo. It doesn't make much sense. So then the question is, can you bring in Fini? And Fini is actually not bad, but because it's... If my opponent didn't have Tailwind, I actually think Fini is the clear max option. But because they have Tailwind and because we have no bulk on Fini, if we match Tailwinds, they just outspeed our Fini. So I think Metagross should be the max option here because they can't cleanly knock it out. So if the thing is, if they have Durant, well, Latias can actually deal with it really, really well. You know, I was talking about Kartana earlier, but Durant is actually great to see from Latias' perspective. They're going to go with Whimsicott and Inteleon. It's not really a great lead for us here. Latias would have been better. Because the thing is, they can just knock out the Urshifu right now. If you're my opponent, you just, what, go for a Tailwind? Inteleon can Airstream into Urshifu. It's not good. Now, I've banded Sucker Punch. I don't want to switch out into Latias or Metagross here. Latias would have maybe worked out a little bit better as a lead. Inteleon or Fini would have been sick here, but I think I had to respect Mamoswine. Okay, I think I'm going to just go for a Tailwind here and Sucker Punch into Inteleon, expecting to... Oh, wait, but it... They go for the 50-50 with Taunt. Okay, that's a little frustrating. But this might be Scarf Inteleon. It doesn't KO, but I don't think Snipe Shot will KO us in return either, so that's okay. Yeah, that's actually not too bad. It's just a little frustrating to lose the Speed Tide there. Okay, let's switch out then here. What about double switching, actually? Are they going to switch Inteleon out? That's the other question. You don't even need a Tailwind right now with your Whimsicott. If I'm opponent, what am I doing here? I just like don't want to switch out on a Moonblast with what I have in the back. What if I just Moonblast Whimsicott and switch this out into Latias? I'm actually, I think, okay with that. Okay, so they're not going to switch out Inteleon, which is fine by me. Although they might just be going for a Fairy type attack into the Latias switching, so... Okay, Inteleon protects, nice. Looks like they are just attacking with their Whimsicott, okay. Yeah, I don't know if switching in Latias was actually the smartest decision here, because I'm just going to get hit by a Moonblast. That was not very good on my end. And a special attack drop, not fun, okay. Yeah, if you're my opponent, do you Tailwind? Because I have Tailwind with Latias. Like, I want to Moonblast into their Whimsicott and go for a Tailwind of my own right now. Because if Snipe Shot Inteleon probably has Ice Beam, right? I think switching to Metagross last turn was better, but I also think there was a world in which my opponent's Inteleon just attacked. Here's the problem, like, Latias is actually my best answer against the Durant. So if I'm switching it in like this, it's pretty careless. Their Whimsicott protects. Okay, and they Air Slash, but this actually means I get Tailwind up with my Latias, which is a very big deal. Okay, no, they flinched Whimsicott, but that's not the thing we needed to... Yeah, okay, that's fine. Taunt wears off. They're going to Tailwind on their Whimsicott now, presumably. I want to Bulldoze and switch out into Metagross right now. I actually think this is the perfect opportunity to go for that. Yeah, I'm down for that. Okay. This has definitely been an interesting game. Yeah, they go for their own Tailwind. You know, Bulldoze is really valuable. Okay, they go for Dark Pulse, but we're Colbur, so we should survive this. That's a huge, yeah, huge that we can survive this. Nice. Okay, my heart, like, always freezes a second before that because I was expecting a flinch. The reason this Bulldoze is such a big deal, by the way, is because we have Tailwind up, right? My opponent also has Tailwind up, but my Latias actually outspeeds a lot of what they have in the back. For example, Durant. Now, with the Metagross out, I also outspeed Whimsicott, which means you can't just cleanly knock out my Latias. So, this is not how I expected the early game to play out. Yeah, getting taunted, it always makes sense to go for that 50-50 kind of on turn 1 with taunt, so like totally can respect my opponent going for it. They bring out Durant. 2 turns of Tailwind left on our end. We still have Whimsicott in the back. They're at -1 speed, and I've gotten the Bulldoze off on this. We also have Urshifu in the back, which is very good for late game Wicked Blow, right? So in this position, I think I like just maxing, Steel Spiking into Whimsicott, and going for a Mystical Fire onto the Durant. That feels fine to me. I think this is where Mystical Fire just comes up so huge. They switch out Whimsicott out, that's fine. Into Thundurus. I maybe should have covered for that. Was it a mistake also to not Bulldoze here? I mean, I think it's still fine because I don't think they can deal with Metagross very easily, but actually, did they have a switch in into Hailstorm? Mamoswine would have been it. I just like the idea of a defense boost. We also could have just doubled up onto Durant here, but it is a little risky to double up in case Whimsicott act like they make the play Protect Durant and then Moonblast into Latias, so like I still feel like we come out of this turn decently positive. Because the reality is that like we'll have Policyed Metagross. Yeah, we don't KO though. But we outspeed Durant with Latias, right? Yeah, so we just get Mystical Fire off. Nice, okay, good. I feel like that should be enough to win this game. They're gonna Steel Spike us. They'll get a defense boost. If I just Max Quake Durant there, that probably would have been a KO. So, like, I feel like my Metagross attack this turn was a little bit suspect. Like, I was nervous about their last one being Mamoswine, but I gave them the opportunity to get a switch in. This is kind of how I lost that last game, too, so I feel like it wasn't really exactly the best play on my end. Yeah, okay, would have KO'd Thundurus without the defense boost, but I think Durant's always going for the defense boost there. To which now I have Whimsicott with Charm and Moonblast. So I could just bring out Whimsicott, right, and just Moonblast Max Quake. I feel like that's fine. Let me just double check the speeds of everything this turn. Pretty sure Max Quake should KO Durant from the range that it's at. I could Charm Durant as well, but I don't really think we need that. The argument to bring in Urshifu is to get another Tailwind off. I don't really think we need another Tailwind off in this game. Like, I think I'm content to just Max Quake here and Moonblast into Thundurus. Now, Thundurus protecting here feels like fairly obvious, but if Durant faints, I win the game. My opponent's team is really, really frail. Like, we're using a frail team, but their team is even more frail with Whimsicott, Durant, Thundurus, and Inteleon. Colbur Berry was huge, though, I think, because we had Colbur. Okay, they switched Thundurus out. Yeah, that's fine by me. Unless Durant survives Max Quake. Like, it is going to get another defense boost, but it's also going to take Life Orb Chip, right? And, like, it's essentially a neutral Max Quake against, what, 30% Durant? There's no way it survives that. Okay, they go for another Steel Spike. This is also great because I still have Urshifu with Sucker Punch against Thundurus, right? So the Thundurus is effectively locked. But I had the opportunity to double up onto Durant. I also could have gone Bulldoze Max Quake into Durant. I don't know if that would have KO'd. Yeah, I mean, let's see if Durant can take Max Quake, but we have policy activated, so it's essentially, you know, +2 on both sides. Yeah, there's no way. Mystical Fire was really what saved us here, right? That's why it's on the team. It's really valuable into any Steel type. In this format, Kartana is going to be the one you typically like can actually get a big burst of damage against, but like it's really important for two reasons. One, right? One, it gives us value against the Steel types, especially Kartana and Durant here, but it also importantly can activate that weakness policy on Metagross. So I feel like my main takeaway in the games I played with this team today is just like not playing super well until the potential switch-ins. I don't know, that last game we absolutely could have won if I just knocked out Fini the turn it switched in, and so I should have played a little bit more aggressively so y'all can learn from my mistakes in playing with this. Like, it's not like the last game was like an outright mistake. Either way, let's just finish this game off first. Yeah, I was also nervous about them maxing Inteleon, and I actually think that could have been a better path to victory for them in this game rather than Durant. But they probably just weren't expecting Mystical Fire on Latias, right? That's kind of a surprising attack, so yeah. Anyway, like I said, I think the main thing to take away is, like, game 2, like, yeah, we got fully parried, but, like, even then, I didn't put myself in, like, a fantastic position. My opponent had Kartana in that game, too, right? But the thing is, like, I'll never feel bad about getting paralyzed turn 1 on Latias, just because, like I said, it's really difficult to cover for the option of defensive Thundurus and max Thundurus on turn 1 immediately. It's really hard to assume that your opponent's both. Now, when they lead Thundurus plus Landorus, there's actually more reason to think it's going to be defensive Thundurus. That being said, what do I even do in that position, right? Like, yeah, I could switch out, but then, like, Latias is still going to get hit by a T-Wave at some point. However, in a best of 3, now that I knew my opponent's Latias or Thundurus was, like, defensive in that second game, like, I could play it very differently, right? Where, yeah, theoretically, I could just go Metagross Fini lead. Or not even Metagross. I could go Latias, Metagross, bait Thunderwave turn 1, like, switch out into Fini. I don't even think that's the best line of action, though, because Max Landorus is still such a big problem, and it would presumably it does outspeed us. Actually, did we confirm that it outspeeds us? Because in turn 2, turn 1 we tailwinded. Turn 2, yeah, I mean, there's a chance Landorus was actually slower than us, but, I mean, Metagross's base speed is so slow. So, if I were to play against Thundurus Landorus again, I'd probably just go here's what I would do. I'd go Whimsicott Fini, and just Tailwind Hailstorm. Well, no, that doesn't even work, because they might be Eerie Impulse Thundurus. Support Thundurus actually is so tough, in game 2. Because I don't even have, like, a definitive line of action to take. I could go Whimsicott Urshifu, Tailwind Wicked Blow Thundurus turn 1, and then Latias Metagross in the back, but Fini is so good in that matchup. So, it really feels like in game 2, like, the main thing is I put myself in a winning position. I just, like, didn't read into my opponent's switch well enough, and, like, because my opponent didn't switch Landorus out into Incineroar on turn 2, which you probably make if you have that switch, then it's likely that they didn't have Incineroar in the back, which indeed was the case. And then the main thing is, yeah, my concern about Thundurus hanging on from a Steel Spike from plus Moonblast. I think it does survive. And then, well, but we don't have to worry about activating Defiant. And then you Thunderbolt us, but that's not that bad. So, yeah. I think game 2, the best play was to try to, predict the switch in. But, yeah. Anyway, that's going to be it with this one. Latias and Metagross came out in all the games and were, crucial to the team, so really happy to feature what this combo can do. You can pull off a lot of cheeky stuff with Bulldoze, especially. Like Game 3, for example, was a really big deal that we can Bulldoze to guarantee that we outsped Whimsicott while we had the Tailwind advantage. Get that free switch into Metagross. Yeah, Metagross takes a little bit of chip damage, but whatever. And then more importantly, if you're able to activate that weakness policy without taking any damage on that first turn, it is so, so critical. Game 2, part of the disadvantage was also that we never actually set off that weakness policy, and so that made it tougher for us to win. And my opponent played that really, really well, and supported Thundurus, as I may know, as you all know as well, is a very, very good set. So that's going to be it for this one. Thank you so much as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Details for the team are in the description below. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all next time. All right, peace.